Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel and today I want to share with you someone who is helping people on a path of self-realization and empowerment. Karen Cheong is a transformational speaker and healer with 25 years of experience on guiding people to release unconscious blocks. She empowers her clients to rewrite their spiritual blueprints and embrace the power of abundance. Hi Karen, I'm so grateful to have you on the show and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, bless you. I can't wait to share your journey. You've definitely been on an interesting journey the last 25 years, and I'd love for you to share what your life was like before you had a rebirth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like I've had two rebirths, so I'll probably answer that in stages. So the first one was that, I was your typical overachieving Asian. So
I understand.
For any of you out there who are Asians, you know what that means. That means very controlling, very cultivated to always achieve perfection as much as possible, always striving to be number one, that whole thing, right? So there's a lot of overachiever stuff running through. And what happened for me in my first, I would say, beginning of my spiritual journey is that I got really sick. And so I feel like a lot of people, when they start their spiritual journey, it starts usually with a crisis, right, of some kind. So whether it's like a health breakdown or a divorce or a breakup or a death or financial crisis, whatever, right? Something happens that causes us to stop in our tracks and ask ourselves, there's got to be something different. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be something out there that I'm missing. And so for me, my health crisis was, if you've ever had a mosquito bite, like on a knuckle or in the back of your knee, and you know how itchy that is and how it can drive you nuts. Well, I had that basically from like underneath my chin all the way down to my ankles.
Oh my God.
And I was,
wow.
Yeah, it was really horrifying. And my husband, Chris, and I were living in New York City at the time. And I would just be up at night scratching. And so I'd wake up with like all my skin raw and my clothes sticking to me. And I'd just be crying all the time because if you've ever been itchy, it kind of drives you a little bit mental, right? It's not just the physical pain. It's weirdly emotional and psychological too. So anyway, I was not sleeping and really going to a dark place. And then my husband, Chris, woke up one day and was like, I can't bear to watch you like this, because he was watching me sort of like degrade at a very rapid rate. And I had gotten to the point where I was contemplating taking my life because I just didn't think I could do it anymore. I was like, I hadn't been sleeping and I was just in agony. And just FYI for everyone out there, it's not like I was just lying there being in agony, not doing anything, So I had gone to see all the doctors. I had seen, the dermatologists and the acupuncturists and the different kinds of people, and nothing helped. So it made it even worse for me personally, because I was now in despair, right? Like I'm not fixable. So right at the point where I was just about to give up, I actually remember asking just not asking really, but just saying to the universe, like, I can't do this much more. Like I really am right at that edge. When Chris is the one who said to me, I think we need to send you to this acupuncturist that your aunt has been talking about. Now, my aunt, don't forget, we're in New York City. So my aunt lived in in Calgary, Alberta in Canada, which was like, across the country and, 5-hour flight away in a different country, really. And I, feebly protested because I didn't have much oomph about anything. And because, I was just like, I'm not sure how we're going to pay for it. And he was like, I don't care how we pay for it, but you need to get better because you're not going to survive. Mm-hmm. So within a week, I was on a plane and off to see this acupuncturist who had saved my aunt's life. She had really terrible cancer, and she was the only one of her cancer group that survived. And she credited this man. So off I went to see this man. And it was the first time, Gerds, that I'd met somebody who, when he looked at me, he wasn't looking at me. Like, meaning, like, when you meet someone casually, you're like, hi, how are you, etc. He was scanning me. And I was like, oh, I don't know what this is, but it's different. And as soon as he saw me, he was like, okay, well, I can see exactly what's happening with your skin. I mean, it's very clear. And you also have a headache on the lower left part of your head, and you have slight indigestion. And he hadn't touched me. He just looked at me. And I was like, okay, wow. And then he said, don't worry. I know exactly what to do. You will be well. And then in 5 weeks with needles and cups and herbs, I was well. So I went from like suicidal hot mess to pretty much a version of like what I look like today. And that was the beginning of my journey, because my question was, what is there in the unseen that governs what we think is solid and real? What is there? Because this shouldn't have worked, right? It shouldn't have, but yet it did. And so that began that 25-year journey, and I studied all kinds of different modalities, energetic modalities, spiritual modalities, personal development, you name it. I'm a curious person, so I did it. And fast forward, and now my husband Chris and I are living in San Francisco, California, and we have a really successful real estate business where we help people buy and sell their homes, and a team, and our business is 90% referral based, so we love our clients and they love us. And from the outside, it looks amazing, right? Perfect life. But on the inside, it wasn't like that. And the inside, I felt a lot of scarcity. Didn't matter how much money was in the bank. I always was spreadsheeting every night how much money we had left before we had to sell our house and move in with my parents. So it wasn't like, despite all appearances of it being like amazing, my little spreadsheeting habit was a tell of something seriously wrong. So anyway, and around at that point, like I said, I'm like engaging a lot of different modalities in our business, because I'm like, well, I'm learning all this stuff. Let's use it. Mm-hmm. And so it was helping, but I was just like, I think I'm missing something. What am I missing? What am I missing? Right? That was just my question I kept asking myself. And at the same time, I was noticing that other agents in our office, and we were doing very well. So it was just like a handful of them, but they were, didn't seem to care about their clients as much, and they weren't doing as much for them. And yet they were outproducing us. And I was like, why is that happening? Why is there a ceiling here? So anyhow, as the universe responds, as it often does, I'd come back from a little journey on my own to France, and I was in my acupuncturist office. And as I remember this really clearly, it was one of those weird Matrix moments where like time slows down, like in the scene in the movie when like the bullets are going by. It was kind of like my very mundane version of that. But anyway, I was getting up off the acupuncturist's table, and she said to me, have you ever heard of frequency work? And that's when everything slowed down. I remember seeing like every angle of the room. And I said to her, no, I haven't, but I know I need to. And that's what began what I would call my second rebirth, where I started to release my distortion patterns. And as I did that, things started to change tremendously and subtly at the same time. So everything just like got better and better and like accelerated in terms of momentum. But it was weird, Gerds, because I almost didn't notice it. So it was like one day, like a couple months in, my husband says to me, have you noticed that you're not spreadsheeting? And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Like I haven't spreadsheeted in like a couple months. So you see what I'm saying? Like I didn't notice myself that I had that tremendous shift without him pointing it out to me, because I was just this newer version of me. So that is sort of my two, what I would call like sets of rebirths, if you want to call it that. Yeah. And so, life is really different now than when I began, because, even some of my closest friends have said to me, it's kind of amazing what doesn't trigger you anymore. So meaning how I am able to hold my center, how things change all the time around me and I'm okay with it and I can go with it. And that there's always opportunity and expansion to be had, even when things look like challenges. Now that is very different from the person who I was at the very beginning, who would have freaked out if anything had gone wrong, and I would have always been constantly adjusting to make sure that things didn't, quote unquote, go wrong. So it's a really big difference, like internally versus how I was before. Yeah.
Oh no, I can 100% relate with you. And it's so interesting how similar we are. I'm kind of in shock a little bit, because I've had 2 rebirths as well. So I haven't been on the journey for 25 years yet, but I've been on the journey for, I think it's been 13 years now. And so I was actually a journalist before. No surprise. But it was more health journalism. I was always interested in health journalism. And I collapsed in the office because I was burnt out, I was draining. I took a different route that year. I thought, let me just go into financial publishing, as you do, for a little bit more extra money. Why not? And I ended up collapsing in that office, saying to myself, I'm going to leave. And within 3 months, the universe had its own plan. I was made redundant and I walked out. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that I was happy to leave. And then a few weeks later, I get a cancer scare. And I'm 24 at the time, and I'm like, oh my God, my life is over. I don't know what's happening to me. And I started drinking excessively. And what had happened is they had misdiagnosed me, by the way, but I walked into the hospital and I waited for my appointment. And, you can imagine as a 24-year-old, you're like, what have I done to deserve this? And I hear a voice saying, you created this. And I looked around the room and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. There's nobody here. Obviously, it was the universe, God talking to me. But at that point, I wasn't with spirituality as I am now. And they told me they misdiagnosed me. I ran out of the hospital crying and I heard the words, it's time to heal. And my life just shifted dramatically. I ended up leaving the journalism world. I ended up working with young people, just trying to discover myself, who I really was, because I always thought, especially in our cultures, right? I know you were saying Asian. In the UK, we call us South Asian. So I'm Indian, but we say South Asian. And in our cultures, we are very similar cultures. It's all about high achieving, being very ambitious. And I was very alpha female as well. Had to control everything, like you said, because that's all I knew.
Yeah, of course.
And the universe really broke me down. And I ended up working with young people, traveling and just, learning a lot about myself and self-love. And then I ended up having a radio show and lots of different things happened, speaking on stages. And I was at the top of my career then. So I'd let go of a lot of control. My parents thought I was crazy at the time because I left a career that they obviously thought was amazing. Why would you leave many years after studying this and being in the industry? And then I'm living my life. I'm about 29 at the time, having an amazing career, speaking in front of thousands of people on stages. And then I collapse one night in my flat. And the ambulance come and the paramedic says to me, kind of like what you said about this guy that you saw, the acupuncturist, and said, you have a kidney problem. You need to get this sorted. And I was like, what? And a year before that, Karen, somebody had said to me, and they scanned me like you said, somebody I met at an event scanned me up and down and said, you have a kidney issue. You've got to sort this out. It's on your right-hand side. And I thought, he's just making it up. Because again, it was very hard for me to still trust fully because I didn't really know this person. Went to the hospital. They said, oh, no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. It's a urine infection.
Normal.
2 years to discover that I had a kidney defect. I was born with it and I had a knot at the top of my kidney and I didn't know. And I spent 2 years fighting and I ended up managing to save my kidney. I woke up and I had a rebirth, kind of like what you said. And suddenly things didn't matter to me anymore. And I ended up doing the deepest work of my life, like healing, ancestral healing, cultural, society, you name it. All the layers were just peeling off. But it was the biggest blessing of my life. But then I ended up having a obviously I had kidney disease and I didn't even know. And I managed to reverse my kidney disease. I prayed to God, the universe, and said, please show me the way. I followed some health protocols online. And within 7 months, I reversed my kidney disease, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue. And here I am 9 years later, healthy, able to move and live life again. And I believe in those moments, it's not about the health condition. It's about who we are becoming.
No.
And what the universe is showing. So as you were saying your story, I was like, oh my God, there's so many similarities where we're being asked to let go and be, true to ourselves and love and accept ourselves and trust the process of the universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an awesome story.
Thank you. It's been a crazy journey, as kind of like yourself, but it hasn't broken us. It's made us into who we are. And I look back at that young version of me, like you said, where we were controlling and stuff, but we didn't know anything better because that's what we grew up with. That's what our mother showed us, right? We are that generation that are now on peeling those blocks and really coming home to ourselves and really being more in the divine feminine than ever before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to say, I don't feel like my parents, it's funny because there's a lot of I think, misunderstanding of parents, and lineage and all that sort of thing. But the thing is, the lineage is often doing the best it can given the distortions that it's running. So it's only, it wasn't like my parents were out to make me like a total control freak and like, stressed out all the time. What they were trying to do is make sure their two daughters were going to be secure, safe. That's the best way they thought they could give that to us, to make sure that we were overachieving like crazy so that we would be guaranteed success. So it's funny, with the lineage, I think a lot of people, I'm not suggesting you're saying this, but just upon reflection, it's like the lineage is something that carries tremendous, let's call it opportunity to release and to heal and to free ourselves in many ways. And then also there's so much gifting in it too. It just kind of depends on your resonance and how you your perspective is and how you see things. So yeah, it's kind of like many things. It's not just one thing, It's like many things at the same time. Yeah.
100%. Like with all my clients, I always say like there are good parts of our ancestors, and then there's the bits that we don't want, and that's the ones that we can let go.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't realize is that our parents and generations, they were in survival mode. So they were doing the best that they can. And so that's what we learned. But it doesn't mean because they were doing it that way, we have to do that now because we have those opportunities. But they look at us like, you've got it so easy. And it's like, it's not that. It's that we're learning to like be safe and, have security in ourselves and our bodies. And that's okay. It's a new being. So I 100% relate with what you're saying. And, I do believe that there are so many amazing quality and gifts that we do get from our ancestors, and it's honoring them, but letting go of the hardships and the heaviness that, we don't
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So what would you say, I know so you've had 2 rebirths, but what was like the biggest turning point for you, would you say?
The reason I'm laughing is because I feel like there's been so many and I forget them, not because I'm trying to, but just because I forget them. But I would say the biggest one is the 9-hour meditation I had when I was in Sedona. So if you had told me 6 or maybe even 7 years ago, I can't remember the time now, but around that amount of time, like I would be doing this with the abilities that I have now, I would have laughed because I would have been like, okay, whatever, that's nice. That's a nice idea, but I don't even understand how that's possible because I didn't ask for this. Like some people really want to be healers. You know what I mean? Like they really endeavor to have gifts and they really want to be healers and they really want to contribute to humanity in that way. And that was not something that I endeavored towards, right? I just wanted to, when I started, stop feeling like crap and stop feeling scarcity. Like that was really the outcome that I was looking for. I wasn't, I didn't have any grand plan or anything like this. So anyway, because of course, right, like everything else, when you change yourself, everything around you changes. And as you rise in your resonance, then you can contribute to more people, right? If you yourself haven't addressed yourself and you try to help other people, then it becomes dangerous because you're not stable yourself, right? It's like if you're walking along the side of a bank of a river, it's really slippery and someone's holding your hand and you're not stable yourself. Well, if you fall, you're going to pull the other person with them, right? Like no one's stable. So in any case, about 2 years after I started hearing about frequency work, I just started, right at the beginning, when I first heard about it and I first started doing it, I really wasn't aware of what it was that was happening. It was beyond what the way that I felt or perceived the world at that time, but I just knew that something fundamental had shifted and that I needed to keep doing it. And that something within me knew that there was a quickening that was happening that I didn't really understand yet, and that was okay. So fast forward 2 years of intensive clearing, just like you mentioned in your own story, right? Like be aware, clear, like all that stuff that we do in terms of our own form of inner work. And when I released the distortion patterns, after about 2 years, I just had this feeling that I was supposed to go to this retreat that was being held in Sedona with a teacher that I had never heard of before. A friend had told me about him. And I was like, okay, I don't even know who this teacher is. The title is somewhat obscure to me. It was called something about piercing into the absolute or something. I'm like, I barely understand what that means, but who cares? I just know that I have to go. And I really knew I had to go because as the date of the retreat approached, I just had more and more resistance to it. And typically, for me personally, my little tell was when I knew something big was about to happen, my ego mind would go into more and more resistance, right? Like more reasons why I shouldn't go to the thing. And, all these I don't know the teacher. It's a lot of money. It's 12 days in retreat when I have this business. It's very busy, et cetera, all the mind stuff. But I knew myself well enough at that point to be like, okay, you're going to go because obviously something big is about to happen and you don't know what it is, but you're going to go anyway. Okay. So off I went to this retreat. And I entered the retreat room, and as soon as I walked in, I could feel the ego mind chatter in the room, meaning there was a lot of people who wanted to appear awake and to prove that they were awake. And I always find it really fascinating when people have a strong need to do that, because if you truly are awake, you have no need to prove anything. So I always find it very kind of funny, I'm just like, okay. And so as the lecturer came on, he's talking, and I could feel the field get more and more distorted with that ego mind stuff. I was like, okay, I don't need to be here. There's something about this that doesn't feel right to me. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong. And for me, in that moment, I was like, this is not right for me. And in that moment, I made a decision which was very counter to my upbringing. So, as you mentioned, like you're South Asian, I'm East Asian, very similar. And, all my Chinese grandmothers were like, if you pay for a retreat and you throw down a couple $1,000, you're going to go. Right? You're going to go to the retreat. You're going to take notes. You're going to practice all the things. Yeah. You're going to excel because, of course, you're going to get value for what you paid for. I mean, that's like a no-brainer. Yeah. So anyway, here I was, and I was just like, I shouldn't be here. And so I decided at that point to not go back to the retreat, which was like a big deal for me at that moment in time. Wow. And I did something else that was sort of radical. I don't even know why I thought to do this, but for me at that point, I was like, okay, I believe I can do this on my own. I don't know what possessed me to think I could do it on my own, Gerds, but for some reason I had this feeling. And I'm like, I'm just going to meditate. I'm here for 12 days in Sedona. I never have this much time available to myself. I'm here to meditate. Let's meditate. And so anyway, it ended up being that I was like a couple days later in a meditation, and I went in the morning. Okay, so I didn't really think anything of it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to raise my frequency resonance and see if I can pierce into the absolute, into the oneness. I mean, let's just try it. Yeah. So anyhow, what happened in that meditation was that I rose high enough my frequency resonance that I pierced through what I call the veil of forgetting. And when I moved past it, I had this experience of oneness. And it's very hard to describe because it's not a mental phenomenon, right? It's a completely felt sense. So I lost the identity of Karen. And just by the way, that was a hard thing to do. In order to move into that space, I really had to surrender who I thought I was, which is terrifying, actually. I don't know if people just like think it's blissful and like an easy maneuver. It wasn't for me. I mean, it was scary as all get out. It's terrifying, right? You're like, okay, well, I could go insane. I don't know who I'm going to be. I could lose all my relationships. And then something within me was like, you have to surrender. Like, I don't know what possessed me, but anyway, I was just like, I just know deep in my beingness, I have to surrender. And even if I lose my mind, it's okay with me. Like, I must. And so when I moved into that resonance of that oneness, like I said, there was no, it's so hard to describe. There was no Karen, like the persona. And in that moment, I perceived everything as one. And I actually, if you were someone outside looking through my little window of my Airbnb, you probably would have thought I was nuts because I was sitting on this couch and I, in my physical body, started laughing because I couldn't believe that I'd forgotten that I was part of the oneness. And then after a few minutes of laughing, I just started crying because I couldn't believe that I'd forgotten that I was part of the oneness. It's like forgetting that, I don't know, like your hand is part of you or that, that you breathe or whatever. It was that fundamental. And in that experience, I perceived everything as frequencies. There was no thinking. I just knew. And I also knew that I could make change at that level. And so anyway, when I became aware of my body and I came back into my awareness of the room, etc., it was dark. And I was like, that's weird. Because when I started, it was morning. And then I looked at the clock and it had been 9 hours. And after that point, it was so weird because, and it was amazing at the same time because I was in Sedona. So, I'd meditate and then go on these walks, and Sedona is really beautiful for those of you who haven't been there, but it's really spectacular. And as I'm walking along, I really had the sense of the illusion, and not in a terrible way, but like the grandeur of it, and how extraordinarily intricate it is, and how it really is created for us to grow and learn from, and to step into the remembering of who we truly are. Mm-hmm. And it was like I could put my hand through the illusion. It was the oddest thing. And at that moment, or not at that moment, but I realized that I could still perceive on the frequency level, which I wasn't expecting at all, and that I could still make change at that level. And oddly, a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in like years happened to overlap with me in Sedona for 12 hours, and she came to visit me. In that tiny little studio apartment. And she was talking away because, as you do with somebody you haven't seen for a long time. And as she's talking, I said to her, do you want help with whatever it was she was talking about? And she kind of looked at me and she's like, sure. And so I just did the work that I do now without really knowing how I was doing it. And it must have worked because within like 2 or 3 or 4 days, my phone started blowing up with texts from all of her friends wanting sessions, which I had not, by the way, planned on doing. It wasn't like I was like, yeah, this is going to be my business plan, and this is the format, and this is what I'm going to be doing. It was just, I was like, whoa, I mean, where are all these people coming from? So that was the beginning of what I do now, and one of the most pivotal moments in my life. Yeah.
I absolutely love this story. It's amazing. And again, I relate with you. It's you chose a path. You weren't looking for this path. The path came to you. And I was the same. I said my whole life I'm going to be a journalist. And then there I was leaving it in end of 2012, going on a journey that I didn't have a clue. And now I'm a trauma coach.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I did the same as you. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. But when it's like, I think you're the same as me. Like, you'll do things, but you don't know why you're doing it. And then you'll research it and you've already done it. And you're like, oh, now I get it. I've always been like that, but it's the power of the universe. It's like we've already know this stuff. It's almost like the universe is saying, I'm bringing you back home to the stuff you knew in another lifetime. I'm just reminding you right now of your powers and your gifts and what you're here to do. Because honestly, I never planned to be a coach. I don't, even till this day, I just laugh at, like yourself, I laugh at myself. I'm like, how did I end up here? But it's the biggest medicine of my life, and I feel the same for you. It's the biggest medicine of your life, and it's the best thing that ever happened to you, right?
Yeah, totally. It only gets better. Awesome.
I'd love for you to share with listeners about the work that you do now, which is called Spherical Luminosity.
Yeah. So Spherical Luminosity is really, it's funny, the name of the company, a lot of people will who come into the space will brand themselves. But I really wanted to create what it is that we truly are in the name. So spherical luminosity is what you are. You are this brilliant sphere of divinity, really. And the higher your frequency resonance, the brighter and brighter and brighter you become. And the brighter you become, the more you recognize, realize, are aware of the brilliance of life that is all around you, coming through you, before you. It's not just outside, right, which is what a lot of people believe, but it really is you. So the thing about spherical luminosity is it is the endeavor or the enterprise or the expression, the creative expression of all the things that we do as a team to bring frequency work to the world, to help people to release those layers like you talked about. I call them distortion patterns, which vibrate really low, which keep you in the illusion of the world that you perceive heavy with those distortions. So let's imagine that you have this really beautiful view of the ocean, right? So here you are, it's a gorgeous sunset, beautiful ocean. But instead of seeing the ocean and the sunset, there's a filter that's yellow, and there's another filter that's brown, and then there's a warbly filter that's kind of like one of those funhouse mirrors. And there's another filter that causes like opacity or like a kind of a blurriness. And there's many, 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 many layers. So when you look through the filters, what you see in terms terms of the ocean and the sunset is not the same as someone who doesn't have the same filters as you. So your perception of the reality, let's call it the reality loosely, it's really the illusion, but let's call it reality for the sake of things. Your perception is muddied by all those filters. So the more of those filters that you can release, or layers that you called it earlier, the clearer you are in terms of not only what you perceive, but how aligned you are with life, with, not just life. It's like the brilliance of life, the richness of life, the potential of it, the remembering of who you are. And I truly believe, Gerds, that we are here in this lifetime to awaken. That is what we're here to do. So if you're listening to this, it's happening, right? This is the time. It's been foretold for millennia that this is the time, that this opportunity is here. This window is here for all of this light to happen on the planet and within ourselves to remember who we truly are, which to me is an aspect of you. Of course, you're human. There's nothing wrong with your humanness, but that you are infinite, indestructible consciousness, part of the oneness. Intrinsically, you cannot separate yourself, and that you are constantly co-creating your reality, whether you're doing it intentionally or you're doing it unintentionally. So that was a lot of words and kind of a lot of ideas, but at the same time, there's this knowingness that we all have when we think of limitlessness and our potential, and knowing that we can touch it, but we just don't know sometimes how. And so spherical luminosity is all about bringing us to whatever degree you choose or that you want to that remembering of who you truly are.
Absolutely love you.
Thank you.
You are a sister from another lifetime, honestly, because I get it. I get you 100%. And, with the work that you're doing is beautiful, and so many people need it because the world is getting more and more chaotic than ever before. And people are really not knowing how to come back home to themselves. And I understand why you do the work that you do, because you were just looking to come back home to yourself, just like I was looking to come back home to myself. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we figured it out. The universe guided us, but we had to listen from within. And you're 100% correct. Like, as I've pulled off the layers in the last 12, 13 years, my intuition is on another level. Like, and yours is probably the same. Like, we can see things so clearly now that we couldn't before. And I remember when I woke up from my operation, I actually renamed the podcast, because the podcast used to be called the Get Inspired with Gerds. And I woke up and I heard inner light. And I was like, we all have an inner light from within, and we all can tap into that inner light and that potential. And that's when I named it the Inner Light Project. And, we all have the capacity, like you said. It's just clearing the debris that we have allowed society and other people to layers that we've been brought up with from a young age, and letting it all go to really come back to the true person, the core of who we are and our beingness.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I love that your podcast is called Inner Light. And the reason I love it is because there's so many who begin their spiritual journeys and they believe it's all out there. Like the divine is out there, abundance is out there, the limitless is out there. I'm like, no, it's here. Like, it's inside of you, and you are it. And there's so much, I feel, for many who start their spiritual journey, of non-worthiness, like the non-worthiness of the divinity within, the non-worthiness of your own authority in your own space, the non-worthiness of your own power. All of these things are there because we don't believe that out there, which seems glorious, is us. And part of that journey that you're talking about is claiming that glory. It is really about coming into what I call the seat of majesty, because it's not about anything over anyone else. Like, honestly, like, it's not about, like, I'm better than you, I'm more awake than you, I'm more knowledgeable than you. Who cares? It really isn't. It really is like, can you clarify for yourself so you get to experience the amazingness of who you are without the need for that external referencing, which is really a lot of what our culture is, right? I mean, if you think about social media, which we're all on, it's all about, like, look how amazing I am. I am fantastic. Don't you want to be just like me? And our culture is very, like, it really amplifies that message. So people think, well, I'm not that great. I'm not that wonderful. I mean, look at all these amazing people. So it emphasizes that we ourselves are not enough. And it's really through doing whatever inner work you're doing, whether it's frequency work, whatever work you do, Gerds, as this trauma coach, to release all that stuff, to be like, no, actually, I am spectacular, not better than, just in myself, And I think that is something that is part of the remembering, the coming home, as you say, to yourself, is the recognition of that amazingness that you are.
Yeah, I love what you're saying because it's so true. And I remember looking back many years ago that the reason why nobody knows or like trusts in themselves is because from a young age, and especially girls in particular, and men do have it as well in different ways, but for women there's a lot of restrictions from generations of women being mistreated, not knowing their power, the witches era, you name it, all that. But from a young age we are taught to get a good education, to get a good job, then get a house, then a car. Like you're literally racing with time, that you have no knowledge of self. And then somebody might have a midlife crisis. I call my when I had mine at 25, my quarter life crisis. That happened.
That's awesome.
It was a quarter life crisis, but it happened because I didn't know myself. I didn't know my emotions. I didn't understand myself. Of course, people are going to get depressed and anxious and low because we've never had that time to figure ourselves out. And so we have to go on this powerful journey of spirituality, because the universe didn't say, hey, go and study all day. The universe was like, go and play, go learn about yourself. I gave you these gifts. Can you please go and share them with the world? And
exactly. Yeah.
Like you said, social media is teaching us to compete, but actually there is no competition because we're all divine being children. So we've all here together to unite and to help one another to become that oneness, like you said.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I think a lot of people, like I mentioned way at the beginning, aspire to have certain healing abilities or gifts or whatever. But the thing is that like I said, there's all this external reinforcement. And as you said, there's all of this wounding. And the thing is, you are a unique expression of the divine, period. Unique. So that means that whatever you do, however you express yourself, however you bring your gifts to the world. And it doesn't, everyone thinks that gifts have to be like some extraordinary superpower. They don't. They can be extremely powerful, but not be quote unquote labeled a gift. Like one of my clients, he's amazing because his presence will bring everyone right into the center and the center of themselves and really present in the present moment of linear time. That is a tremendous gifting, right? So everyone's just like they feel their bodies, they're aware of the earth, time gets slow, they start to feel better, they start to connect to their emotion. That's extraordinary. He doesn't have to do anything. All he does is he brings his body into a room. That's all he does. Now, the thing is, people would think, well, that's not really a gift. I'm like, it's a huge gifting. It's a huge gifting, right? Because what happens in his presence is because he's in this very present moment of time and it's seated in his neutrality, whoever he's with can have whatever experience they need to without any kind of judgment. Now, he doesn't do this professionally. By the way, he works at a golf course. That's what he does. That's his shtick, right? But people come to him with all kinds of stuff. Like they all want him as their caddy. They all want to, because he's just really present and they can have whatever experience they need to have. And they realize within themselves what it is that they need to do next. That's extraordinary, And I just say that because we all feel sometimes like we're not enough, that we have to be doing some special bedazzled thing. That's not important. You are an intrinsic part of the one. And let me make this really clear. Without you, the oneness isn't complete. So you are incredibly important and you are beloved exactly as you are. And the thing is, you have this amazing opportunity in this lifetime to raise your resonance and to, like as you probably would say, like shine your light, be who you are even more, so that as you do that, you give others permission to do the same however they choose to express themselves. And that's an incredible and beautiful thing.
I'm getting goosebumps as you're speaking. It's like the divine is in the room with us right now. It's just, wow. The medicine that is coming out, you guys, it's amazing because it's so true. Everything you're saying, I know I keep saying that, but we are the light, we are the essence, you know, and it doesn't have to be, like you said, you don't have to be a healer to change the world. You just have to be
No.
yourself.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
because you could be in finance, but like you said, you could be this beautiful being that just has this gift of holding the space, and that is helping to
Yeah.
heal so many people in the room. That is a gift itself.
Totally. And let me just say, sometimes some of you are stealth, which is really awesome because one of my clients is very high up in one of the investment banks. And let me just tell you who he is and his presence and the choices he makes because he's of a higher resonating order. You may not see it in our society, but it makes a difference because he chooses things that ripple out and affect the financial world, which, by the way, tends to be very conservative and not exactly the most spiritual, center, let's just say. But he's important because he holds that resonance in that space. And the thing is, it's, the other thing that I just want to mention is that it's not about negating your humanness, okay? Because the other thing that I feel like people who are on a spiritual journey do is they always like try to be this like aspect of the divine that they read about. You know what I mean? It's like perfected in some way, the goddess or the whatever and the whatnot. I'm not suggesting that you're not a goddess. Okay. Go be the goddess. But the thing is, you're also human. Okay. You're going to be messy. You're going to screw up. You're going to make imperfect choices. And the thing is, it's kind of amazing to have those experiences because it's about celebrating your humanness in addition to the amazing divinity that you are, because that humanness is there to help you grow. It's to help you transcend. Oh, wait, I didn't even realize that layer was there. I didn't realize that I had that limitation that was given to me by my lineage or from a different set of limiting beliefs, or, oh my God, I had no idea that was there. That's all there for you to continue to transcend, to clarify even more. Because here's the other thing that a lot of people don't really realize. Everyone thinks spiritual awakening is the end point. Like, when I spiritually awaken, like, ding, there's going to be rainbows and unicorns and angels and like singing. But the thing is, that's just the beginning. It's infinite. It really is this amazing, I know that's scary for some people because they're like, oh my God, infinite. But at the same time, just think about that. It's just so much opportunity to experience who knows what. But it's this incredible, amazing art that is your life.
You just reminded me of an image. Like, I remember in my early days where there was a guy sat on the floor and there was a paint of his legs, and it was just like... Just like it was reaching out, like you can create however you want to be, like you're saying. And it's so interesting everything you're saying, because it's so true. Like, a lot of us have so much pressure to be perfect, but the divine or higher power, whatever you want to call it, it teaches you that you have to make mistakes, because that's how you grow, that's how you learn. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means that you're on your journey, and it's almost like you need to celebrate those mistakes because it leads you to the right choices and the right places after.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, without challenge, we're funny humans, without challenge, we kind of will just like hang out, because a lot of people want comfort and ease. Okay. So please know that that's wonderful, right? Like, everyone enjoys the hammock on the beach. Like, who doesn't like that? It's amazing, right? And the thing is, that is an extraordinary experience, and there is more. And the challenge, even though uncomfortable, painful, sometimes embarrassing, sometimes extraordinarily agitating, is really important, because how you respond to it, how you choose to respond to it, how you transcend will change as you continue to grow, as you continue to rise in your frequency resonance, as you continue to peel back those layers, because who you are is different. And my experience anyway is that as a result of the challenge, you have the sense of like knowingness, of strength within yourself, that like you did that. That's part of what you did. It's yours, right? It's your journey. It's not, a lot of people will think, I need to find some guru or some teacher or some guide, and they're going to like sprinkle the sacred water on me of the river of the whatnot, and then I'm going to be awake. But you know what? It's not about them. That totally gives your power away. It's about you. your journey, what you choose to create, what you transcend, because no one can spiritually awaken for you. I hate to tell you, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. You have the power to co-create your reality unless you give it away. So please don't give it away. You get to have this for you because, like I said, you're co-creating everything. So if you think about that for a little bit, it's kind of like, whoa, it's a little bit of a mind bender, but it's kind of amazing at the same time.
I love it. And you're talking about exactly the work that I do, Karen, because it's not about relying on somebody. I have a program called the Infinite Trust Method, and it's all about infinitely trusting yourself from within, right? And with clients, there is a program that we go through, but by the end of it, rather than going, what do you think? It's like, I ask them questions like, what do you think you need to do? And by the end of it, they trust themselves, they know themselves, they accept themselves, they love themselves, and they no longer feel like they need to give their power away. And for me, that is the biggest gift, because
for sure,
in the spiritual world, as you know, people make people dependent on them, and I don't believe in that.
Absolutely.
That's manipulation. The key is to let people be free and trust in themselves, to know themselves, to accept themselves, but they can't if they keep depending on an outer guru, like you said.
Yeah.
And there was just something else that you said, which was so important, like you were saying about mistakes and everything. That we're not always going to be like happy and, all the time. I always say to clients that there's seasons, we're going to be high, we're going to be low, but it's riding through it that teaches us the dances of life. But we have to go through both, because there is, like you said, there's good, there's bad, there's happy, there's sadness, there's joy, there's grief. There's life, there's death. That's the symbol of life. And we really haven't been taught, from a young age how to do that. And I think that's where people struggle to trust themselves. Because we're too busy getting those grades right to get into college and then get that job. And of course we're not going to know. And that's when I feel like the spiritual journey arrives, when the universe is like, okay, it's time to meet yourself now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And the funny thing is, I also feel that as humans, we are very quick to be like, this is bad and this is good. This is happy, this is sad. And we should avoid those things that are quote unquote bad, right? Like, it's all about happiness and joy and bliss and all that sort of stuff. And is that stuff amazing? Of course. But it's funny, emotions can be extremely powerful if they're used constructively. So am I saying that all emotion that is negative is great? No, because you can get caught in it and you can wallow in it and you can beat yourself up and you can stay in self-judgment and you can stay in self-loathing and you can pull yourself down, of course. And if used correctly, those moments where you're angry at yourself, or those moments where you're like, whoa, that was kind of embarrassing that I just did that and I could have done better there, or, those things that make us sad. Oftentimes, if you're using things constructively, if your resonance is high enough and you've released enough of your distortion, those are those transmutative moments that are very precious.
Yeah.
Because it's like these moments where you see yourself really clearly and you're like, oh, wait, I can make a choice here, right? I can make a choice. Do I just need to sit in this resonance? Is there something here for me to learn? Or can I transcend this? Is there something here for me to release that I no longer need? Can I move beyond this patterning that I've had for what feels like my whole life to be in something else? And so I feel like, it's an odd thing that we have, we fear, like I said, those negative things, and we really fear death. I'm not saying that you should throw yourself towards death, I mean, of course, celebrate life, but we have this, as a culture, this abnormally high fear of death. You know what I mean? And because we will do all kinds of crazy to avoid it. But the thing about death is, it's because we have so much fear and we haven't released those fear patterns, and we're not in this place of surrender enough as a culture to be like, okay, this is what's happened. What do I need to release here? What can I do to come into my center? How can I come into this space of expanded stillness? All that sort of stuff is sort of missing from how we approach life and death, because death shows up in all kinds of ways, like relationships end, new ones begin, careers end, new ones begin, new trajectories in terms of your spiritual learning. All that stuff is like death and rebirth, back to the very question that you asked at the very beginning. And so I feel like it's a funny thing that we have as a culture, that we're so afraid of death, and it's really unhealthy, in my opinion. It's very imbalanced, right? It's not addressing the fear that's so deep in so many people that is like held onto in a way that's really kind of like unhealthy. It's not, doesn't lead to a life where you feel centered and able to move and flow with what is. It's very much a resistance of what is, which ultimately can cause a lot of crazy.
Oh, no, 100%. And one thing I learned when I worked with young people, so I was teaching them how to do documentaries because I was still like in the kind of media world at that point.
Yeah.
And I noticed a pattern. So this was over 12 years ago. Kids were being put on antidepressant tablets because they were down. And I was like, what is going on? And I spoke to a few of them. They shared their story because I have this, and I've learnt my gift now. And my gift is I can go anywhere in the world or anywhere in general, and somebody will tell me their life story. Like I just have that presence, and I love it. Yeah. And people feel safe with me, and whatever you say always stays with me. And these young people were telling me their stories, and I'm like, it's okay. And they just would start crying, and I'm like, oh my God. And half of them realized they didn't need to be on it. And then one kid a few weeks later spotted me when I was with a new group and said, I went to the doctors and I came off them and I realized I don't need them. I just need to talk about my feelings. I was like 100%. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. And, that's our society, is that we numb the sadness, like you said, instead of grieve the sadness to heal it. We have to feel, deal, and heal. If we don't feel, deal, and heal, we can't move forward in life. And, death as well. Like I experienced death so hard when my grandma passed away many years ago. And then I had my operation, and then my uncle passed away, and I had nowhere to run. And I had to learn, like you said, to process grief. I still remember that day. And it's when I grieved my grandma 4 years later after she passed away. And now I see grief as a beautiful thing, because through it now I'm able to handle it. I am able to teach my clients how to deal with grief and celebrate their life. They're always around us. The souls of the people that we love are still around us. Like, I'd see my grandma now in a red robin. I'll see my uncle in an owl. They're around us. They're medicine. But society doesn't teach us there's that gift of that. It teaches us we need to be in the darkness, but then we have to be happy. But that's not life. Life is up and down, like we were saying. And so you're right. We haven't been given the coping tools to learn about grief.
And I'm not I'm certainly not saying it's easy, right? So I know my dad passed away. I was in grief. Please know that I'm not suggesting that grief is easy. It isn't. But the thing is, grief can transmute, and it can allow for this space of inner reflection and of like, what needs to change here? Like, can I sit with this? And it's kind of a weird. It's going to sound bizarre potentially. But, when you move through grief, it kind of creates this strength within yourself that you know that it doesn't have to be greater than you. I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't feel grief, that you should push it away, that you should suppress it. But there's an aspect of you that's like, okay, I have this grief. I can feel it. And I don't have to be sucked into it for permanently. You know what I mean? I can be with it, and there's an aspect of me that's greater than this. So it's not about like not having gratitude for the person that you're grieving. Of course, have gratitude and all the gifts that they give you. But it's not about, like you said, not feeling those things, but to like appreciate the grief, because there's this odd thing with people who have moved through grief. There's like an odd kind of grace, an odd kind of strength, an odd kind of like centering that allows them to be able to sit with more, because they themselves have been through that fire of going and moving through grief, which is an important part of the human process.
100%, and I agree with what you're saying. And if only people would learn to feel, deal, and heal, they would be so much happier.
I agree with you.
And the grief, they would be like, "Oh, it's fine. I can handle it. It's all good. Let's feel it. Let's get through it." And then they'll be back to the rainbow again. But it's again. I do feel like people are waking up more than ever before.
Absolutely.
And in a way, social media is beautiful in one way, but also it's bad in one way. However, it's tools on there that people would not know necessarily if people weren't talking about, for example, like we're talking about that, for example. So there are amazing things happening right now, but there's still people need to do the deepest work. And like you said, nobody can do it for them. They have to go from within. We are coming towards the end of the show. I've just realized time. I've got a few more questions there for you.
Sure.
What are your 5 top tips for someone who wants to rewrite their spiritual blueprint, but they don't really know where to start?
Yeah. So, my first tip is to be aware that you're running filters, like those distortion patterns that I talked about. So, how you know that you're running a distortion is that no matter what you do in your life, there's something that you keep bumping up against that you can't seem to change. So, you're going to the therapy, you're going to the you're reading your self-help books, you're saying affirmations, you're doing all the different things, but doesn't matter what, that thing keeps showing up, right? So whether it's in relationship or in your body or in your career or being overlooked or whatever the thing is, okay? Somewhere in your life, something's happening on repeat that you don't like. So be aware that that is a distortion pattern that's running through you. And the thing is about distortion patterns is that they happen at the level of the quantum or the frequency level. And so just really quickly, to give context for what I'm saying, everything is vibrating, and not a surprise to your listeners, I'm sure. And the rate of vibration is what determines how that thing will show up. So if you take something really physical like water, when the molecules vibrate really high, it's steam. When it slows down, it's liquid water. When it slows down even more, it becomes ice or density or form. So if you take that idea and extrapolate it all the way out to the oneness, and that is vibrating at an extraordinarily high rate. When that oneness wants to become something other than one, there needs to be a drop in vibration, obviously. And that when that drop in vibration happens, frequencies are form, or the quantum. And when that vibration slows down even more, it becomes energy. And when that slows down even more, it becomes emotion, thought, and physical form. So the thing is, your distortion patterns happen at the level of the quantum through your lineage, your religious patterning. Even if you yourself aren't, I can guarantee you your ancestors have been religious, your cultural patterning, your past lives, and that's like a short list. But all those layers are heavy and are happening at the level of the quantum. So if you recognize, wait a minute, there's this pattern that I can't seem to address, even though I'm doing this inner work, chances are you're running distortion patterns that need to be released at that level. So that's tip number one. Be aware of distortions and that you are running them because you're alive. Everyone has them. Okay. The second thing is to know that you can release your distortion patterns. So in the sense that you can do any form of inner work, right? You talked about layers, Gert. So it's not like it has to be frequency work. But when you recognize that you can, it's funny. It doesn't seem like it when you look at the world. You think, oh my God, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. However, consciousness is rising. I know it doesn't seem like it, people, but it really is, truly.
Yeah.
And because consciousness is rising and so many people are waking up, people like myself who can perceive at the level of frequency are able to make change on frequency. And just as like a little spoiler alert, you can too. I am not particularly special. I just happen to be a little bit ahead of you. So at some point, when you raise your vibration high enough, you will be able to do the same thing. Okay, so that said, you can clear your distortion patterns. It's going to sound totally bananas. I realize that in advance. However, you just have to be in the field of frequency where that can happen. And what you can do is listen to what I call a group frequency calibration, which sounds like a guided meditation where I'm releasing distortion patterns. All right. So that's the second thing I would recommend. So just start listening to a GFC. That's takeaway number 2. Okay. Listen to a group frequency calibration. There's one for free that I'm offering your audience called Quieting Your Mind for those of you who need help with that. So there's that. The third thing is to become this is 3 and 4. Okay, I'm going to collapse them into one. But it's to become aware of your center. And what do I mean by your center? I mean become aware of your body. Okay, not out there somewhere. Your body. Okay, in the present moment of linear time. That's 3 and 4. Because when you're aware of your body in the present moment of linear time, you come into alignment with your consciousness in form. That means you're going to feel more centered, more stable, more grounded, more able to influence your reality. Okay, so coming into your 0 point really has 2 steps. You can do that very easily because it's not hard. Everyone's like, I don't think that's rocket science. It's not. But you have to remember to do it. So, you know, what I suggest for people is you can set alarms during your day, like that are random, and then do something to do that, right? So it might be, you know, your alarm number 1 goes off and you go dance in your kitchen to your favorite song. Alarm number 2 goes off and you look out the window and connect with the sky and you open the window, even if it's cold, and you feel the air on your skin, for example. Or maybe you go for a walk, or maybe you watch something inspirational. It really, honestly, doesn't matter. Whatever you do to help you be present in your body in the present moment of linear time, do it. Okay, that's 3 and 4. Number 5 would be to recognize that as you clear your distortion patterns, your frequency resonance can rise. So this is more of a cerebral thing at first. It's going to sound like I don't really know what she's talking about, but there's this odd knowingness within yourself of you as infinite, indestructible consciousness. There's part of you that remembers that, even if it's faint. Like when you go out to, if you've ever gone camping or somewhere in the countryside and you see a beautiful starlit sky, and then your heart starts to expand because it's so beautiful. Right? Those moments when you start to feel gratitude for life, that's when you're starting to experience yourself as infinite, indestructible consciousness. So really tip number 5 is start to explore that aspect of you that is and it's funny because people will think it judges a human you. It doesn't. Okay. It doesn't at all. It's really just an aspect of you that you are remembering. So I believe those would be my 5 tips for you to start to really have this sense of momentum. And I would say that my takeaway from all those 5, my top number 1 takeaway is just start listening to group frequency calibrations. They're free. I have a podcast too. I have over 200 episodes. After the end of each episode, there is a free group frequency calibration on that topic. You can listen to that for free. There's like tons of free content that I and Spherical Luminosity create to help people to release their distortion patterns. Pick one. Over 200 and something episodes. There's got to be one that's going to resonate with you. Right? Just pick one and start to listen. That's my bottom line takeaway. If you're going to take away one thing out of the 5.
I absolutely love this. Thank you for sharing. And guys, do check out Karen's work and do listen to one of the frequency shiftings, because it will be so important to help you to come to another level of yourself. And you never know what will be clearing in the moment whilst you listen to that. So I will put those in the show notes for you guys to have a look.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've got 2 more questions. What are you most grateful for?
What am I most grateful for? I'm most grateful for my awareness of my connection to pure source. Because to me, that is everything. It is a very intimate connection. It is one that is very special to all of us. We all feel it and experience it in different ways. Because the thing is, from my perspective, we are all expressions of the divine. And when you start to clarify that very special connection, that awareness that you have of your relationship with the oneness, you recognize like yourself in terms of intrinsically part of that, not separate from and less than, but part of that. So I'm the most grateful for my awareness of my relationship to the oneness, because, or pure source or whatever you want to call it, because that is the root of really like the majesty, the magnificence, the everythingness that we get to be. And that is the thing that I'm most grateful for. And it's infinite, right? You can't like stop clarifying it. It will infinitely be this relationship that becomes more and more clear. It doesn't matter how high you rise in your resonance. And so, that's what I would say I'm the most grateful for.
Beautiful. And what shines your inner light?
Well, what I just said in terms of my awareness of my connection to source. And really, it's about catalyzing others to remember who they truly are. Because to me, when I witness another who sees within themselves, and I use the word see loosely, recognize, feel, be aware of, the gloriousness of who they are, it's like this mirror effect starts to happen, and we get to amplify that in the field, which then allows for more people to experience the same thing. And it's truly such an honor to witness someone truly step into the breadth, the depth, the limitlessness of who they truly are, and the brilliance of who they are. And it's like, I can't explain it. It's like it's like you get to watch, like you said, a rebirth, right? It's like you get to see in someone else the magnificence of the divine expressed in a human form. That's what you get to witness. And so when the work that I do helps someone do that, for me, that's what freaking lights me up. And the thing is, like you said, Gertz, it's not about creating codependence. I'm extremely uninterested in that. Okay? It is not about that at all. It's about empowerment, right? Because like I said, it's all about you. This is your journey, your co-creation. Your life is like the most brilliant artistic expression of you. You get to do it. So can other people guide you? Can they help you along the way? Sure. But part of this is like people to recognize, like, yeah, I'm the one who's doing this. And really you are. So that's what lights me up. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's literally medicine for you. I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's you giving medicine, sharing that medicine with others, for then they can feel their own medicine. That's what is coming through. It's so beautiful, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you do, Karen. Thank you for being on the show and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us today, because you honestly are such a bright light, and the work that you do is so important in this world now than ever before. Like you said, people are waking up, but they just need the tools to know how to really set themselves free. And I'm just grateful that I've had you on the show today, and just keep doing what you're doing, because you're an amazing soul.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing and the light that you're spreading. It's awesome and very needed. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you. Honestly, what a powerful episode with Karen. There was so much medicine in this episode, and I truly hope that you guys, if you feel called to speak with her, reach out and look at her details on our show notes. There is so much to learn from Karen, and I feel some of you out there will definitely learn a lot from her. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. We do not heal the past by dwelling there. We heal the past by living in the present moment. That's a quote by Marianne Williamson. Take care, my sisters, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.